What do you think it means longer term for crypto? We were talking about the price of Bitcoin has actually moved a little bit higher, not as it relates to this, as it relates to the fact that maybe the government's going to stay open, and relates to this comment that Gary Gensler made that had the government shut down, there'd be no chance of a Bitcoin ETF. I don't know if you think there's any better chance that there's a Bitcoin ETF now that the government's open.
Well, we'll go to that specific question, but two things on crypto. One is this trial at a macro level demonstrates how important our regulatory environment is. No commingling of funds, customer assets are segregated. All of those things are designed to prophylactically prevent what is alleged to have happened here.
Well, yes, but the other piece of it is that this was a company that was doing its entire business offshore. Interestingly, one of the things that's happened because we haven't figured out how to regulate crypto, and this is an argument somebody like a Brian Armstrong would make from Coinbase, you're looking at them open up businesses elsewhere, right? They're now doing a lot of business in Europe. They're trying to do business in other countries, in large part because we haven't really figured out what this is supposed to be.
And this is why I think the next step, we recognize that. The next step on crypto is incremental. Crypto is a technology. Let's see that technology in our financial ecosystem in a place where we're confident it's totally safe. So I believe that stablecoin, a well-constructed, well-regulated stablecoin, is one of those places. I also believe that we've decided every legal question around Bitcoin that is relevant. So as I've said before, that would make you think that a Bitcoin spot ETF is inevitable. We know it's not a securities.
Here's a question, though. You were the chair of the SEC. What happened between the time that you were the chair of the SEC and now, where you could stipulate to the idea that we know all the facts around Bitcoin?
Well,
were there new facts that came to light in the past since you?
There were. The classification of Bitcoin when I was chair of the SEC had already been decided when I got there. Okay, that it was a commodity, that the CFTC had regulated it as a commodity. I was very concerned that the trading of Bitcoin around the globe on exchanges that we had no insight into had a large amount of fraud going on.
Right.
And I was not comfortable, and the staff at the
By the way,
SEC
you were proven right.
Yes.
Okay, so now what's changed since then?
So there are a lot of people who do surveillance and the like who are confident that the Bitcoin spot market is what I would say has much greater efficacy than it did 3 or 4 years ago.
Because you've cleaned out the Sam Bankman-Frieds of the world? Is that the idea?
I think it's a number of things.
Finance?
But in the applications that the what I would say is well-respected financial institutions, new financial institutions or new financial providers have submitted to the SEC, they lay out the case for why trading in spot Bitcoin is more efficacious than it was in the Washington.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Support this great content by hitting the Cash App and by joining the Patreon.
And we have Jay Clayton on CNBC speaking about Sam Bankman-Fried and actually acted like he couldn't bring in regulation when it came to cryptos when he was in office. But we clearly saw him bring a lawsuit against Ripple right as he's leaving the door. So therefore, Gary Gensler could kick the regulation can down the road. And Jay Clayton says that stable coins and a spot Bitcoin ETF is inevitable. So we see over these last 2 months, Jay Clayton tune has turned. But guys, we know why. We saw him in FDIC video where they go over they've been planning 10 years ago for this banking crisis. And I go over yield rates on a daily basis. And I know a lot of you get sick of it. But remember, guys, how the mind works. It's nothing but software. And a lot of you have been taking advantage of it. And a lot of you sit back and wonder why. Now you understand the bond market yield rates. Numbers do not lie. Yes, they can be manipulated, but you can look for the manipulation. And I show you all the time. And like I state, finances is boring. The real finances, the real numbers, it is very boring. But guys, it will definitely pay off. Because then you get to look and see how the world really works. Look behind the curtain and you get to see it's all smoke and mirrors. We know the banks are the biggest what? I'll let you finish that. And then we have Kevin McCarthy gets ousted, the first ever speaker. Remember what Trump is going through, the first ever president. Guys, it's all a movie. And just think about all these things that we're going through. It's all being done by the banks. But why? So therefore, they can bring in this fourth industrial revolution. Remember, every sector has to be destroyed in order to bring in the fourth industrial revolution. And then we have the automobile strike. And guys, really no one's talking about it. It's on the back burner and it keeps going on. And it's going to keep weighing on the economy the same way these yield rates are doing. More and more people are going to keep getting laid off. And unfortunately, the masses don't care. They're distracted on things that don't matter, but soon the same will happen to them. The robots, algorithms, and drones are ready to take over this economy. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to upload another short video of automation taking over. Remember, the machines take over and the sheep go inside the metaverse. Get that free money airdrop to them. But little do they know, that money is programmable. It's going to tell you what, where, and when and how to buy, and you have 3 to 6 months to spend it or poof, it's gone. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows. When it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
About for almost the entire year, particularly in April when that 20 was like 3 3/4. It's now 5 and change. We're witnessing a wholesale reordering of the bond market. The 10-year, 20-year, and 30-year are, I think, all headed to higher rates than the federal funds rate, which is currently at a range of between 5.25% and 5.5%. And longer-term bond yields will keep rising if the Fed keeps tightening. Now, I don't like talking about bonds because bonds are usually very boring, but there is nothing boring about this bond market. Treasuries are trading almost like small cap stocks. That's how I want you to think of them. Think of them like stocks. The owners either can't take the pain,
The house of pain,
or they've got to put up more money to meet the margin calls because of the losses, and they can't. As long as you understand that bonds can plummet just like stocks, that there are short sellers and vulnerable people who buy on margin just like stocks, then maybe you can get your head around the velocity of this move, which is just stunning. I got to tell you, this bond market meltdown is like nothing I can recall in a first world country. Which brings me to the impact on stocks. Right now, as rates go higher, investors are deciding the stocks can't be worth nearly as much as they thought they were.
One of my 50-year veterans from the trading floor called me and said, boy, he's spot on. I had many meetings with Milton that if you want to know where inflation is taking the markets and why, just look at government spending. The vigilantes have new horses and they're riding, and I really do think that is the answer. We are spending too much. We are not learning to cut back. As a matter of fact, I think we're out of control as we approach a $2 trillion deficit, and this is the market's way to get Washington's attention.
That's always been the case, though, hasn't it, to some degree, Rick? So
no,
why
QE.
13?
QE changed everything.
Yeah. Right. So do you think that the Fed, whoever the Fed may be within the next 10 years, is actually going to allow a rate that is above 13%?
You can squeeze a water balloon 9 ways from Sunday, but eventually it pops out somewhere. They are running out of little tricks to pull out of their bag, and in my opinion, the quantitative easing removed many signals in the market that now it's trying to put back in place, and they could do as they wish. If they keep tinkering with this, the problem is we have too many large economies that are going to be in the same boat, and who's going to end up buying this paper?
Right.
Ayes are 216. The nays are 210. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
All right, that is a stunner. You have never seen what you see unfolding now in the well of the House in American history. A speaker essentially kicked out of his job. We don't know the breakdown of Democrats and Republicans, if any Democrats at all had voted to keep Kevin McCarthy in that position. We do know here that this holds 216 enough to say that Kevin McCarthy will step down. What he does after that, anyone's guess, whether he puts his name back in the hat to try again for that.
U.S.-China relations are in a number of areas on the brink of red lines. So, in other words, these irreconcilable differences, they're right on the brink. So if I was to take, let's say, the Taiwan issue, it's an irreconcilable issue, and so on. It's right at the line. The breaking point is if the United States said we are in favor of the independence of Taiwan, that's the equivalent of a declaration of war. And because of our political issues that are now internally, you're going to be likely to push that because of the fact that many in Congress and so on would say, we will defend Taiwan at all cost, and we will give them this, and you could even cross that line. It's right. My point is, it's right at the edge. That's that. We have a chips issue, and we have a technology and sanctions issue. That going on. You have a move to what President Xi calls the 100-year storm on the horizon. In other words, he believes there's a 100-year storm on the horizon. That's the sort of things that we're now talking about. And with that 100-year storm on the horizon, you have a very autocratic, in other words, if you don't behave well, you'll lose your head, and so on. And that kind of environment, which, by the way, in war periods and so on, has been what most countries have moved toward or something. And so that's having an effect on the economy. We have the U.S.-China conflict itself, which is affecting what companies do. Do I want to be in China or do I want to be in Vietnam? That's one of the things that's benefiting neutral countries. So they think, okay, the ASEAN countries, India and other places can be a beneficiary of that. Where do I want to be? But that's also hurting them. And then, of course, that we have a world economy which is relatively slow moving. That affects their exports. So they're going through a very difficult period.
But there are ripple effects emerging as Ford and GM just laid off another 500 factory workers combined. In total, more than 6,000 workers across the big three and their suppliers have been let go as a result.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate. Not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Drama Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Drama Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.